Hi, this is Shilpa here. Now, I'm really excited to bring this book out here because you see, when I started my private practice in 1998, about 16 years back, I started as a very, very frustrated practitioner. The classical approach that I was exclusively taught during my medical school, and for 6.5 years, that was all we did. And suddenly, I found it did not work for more than half of the patients that I was seeing. Now, and while there was such a lot of overwhelming number, I would say, of new and old unclassical approaches that were prevalent in homeopathy at that point, I simply did not have the confidence or the knowledge to really now start looking out and making my choices and picking and choosing if my classical approach was not working. So now, like, somehow every approach and every practitioner claimed to be the best, and they seem to have this complete disregard for the possibility that any other approach could actually work, right? And there were simply no books. There were no honest discussions where you could come up and talk about the pros and cons of every approach. And there was something of a general reluctance to speak about any plan B in homeopathy. There was no plan B, right? So it was disappointing that I had no choices, and it was either you adopt a hit or miss approach when it came to plan B, or you simply give up. And there was a point, I admit, when I was desperate and I was really ready to give up. It was too much to actually, um, you know, get going. And there was, but somehow, something in me, something about the people I was associating me who inspired me. Um, you know, I wanted to give it a good go before I would say, yeah, I'm quitting, right? So there started sort of this whole huge learning curve after my graduation. So it was as if I was starting right from scratch. And for the next 5 years, I decided to step out of my box and experiment, no matter what, with the range of different approaches across the entire spectrum of homeopathy and my patients from all walks of life. I was not just doing my exclusive private practice. I was going out there and putting myself out there in front of every possible person who would want to use homeopathy, right? You can put it that way. I was working with charitable institutes, I was working in hospitals, I was working with my as an assistant. There were loads of other things I was doing. So when my favorite approach did not work, I looked for an option, and I did not hesitate to do that, right? And that was the start of what I would call today the stages template. Yeah. And it was simply a roadmap, or you could call it a GPS, on what to do when my favorite approach, my classical approach, or a common sort of, what you would say, an Hahnemannian approach did not work. And for the last 16 years, I continue to use the stages template in my practice, and it has helped me help thousands of patients over 3 different continents successfully. So you see, I've talked about my stages template since the first book I wrote in 2008, right? Which I call Your Favorite Approach Does Not Work. And then through my training videos every month, through my high-end training programs, my breakthrough courses, my mentoring programs, and today over 5,000 students in my network, over 75 different countries, are inspired to learn and step out and confidently, help intern their patients in different corners of the world. And that is so inspiring for me to see that, everyone, you can have a plan B, right? So the first ebook, which is what I call the When Your Favorite Approach Does Not Work, it describes the stages template, it describes the concept for creating that highly successful integrative homeopathic practice where you can choose from, a spectrum of resources at every stage. The second ebook, I go and talk about the evolution of miasms for the very first time, and I provide how you can use effectively the miasmatic tool to suit every approach, so you can have a much higher success rate in your patients. So it's about the secret of miasms, right? And today I'm really delighted to publish my third ebook, which I call a case for every stage. So it's basically stages template in everyday clinical practice, because this book is all about real life practice. It shows you how you can use the stages template through your everyday cases that you can go and apply right from tomorrow, right? So I've picked relevant case studies from my practice, from all the different training videos and lectures I've been doing over the years, from my supervision cases, and it took a long time to get this book out, because I wanted to pick those cases that represent the core. It represents the exact formula on how you can go and pick the most effective approach for the case in your hand. And for the very first time, I'm presenting it in a book form, so you can learn from them and you can go and create that successful practice and that successful outcome for your patients. So I've chosen cases from the entire spectrum of homeopathy, that was solved by one out of that box approach from each stage, right? I cover cases that were solved using organ remedies and sarcodes, nosodes as intercurrents, bogus pathological approaches, layered cases where you give remedies in series, delusional approaches, synthetic prescriptions, sensation approaches, and so on. So you see, that is what this book is all about. Whether you're already an experienced practitioner or you're just getting out right now and starting, this is your recipe book for picking an approach or series of approaches to provide the fastest outcome for your patient using the template. And think about this. What if you could give your patients an outcome right in the first consult? What if your patients cannot wait to come back for your second consult because they know what this is all about? What if your patients want to complete their journey with you until your resolution is complete? How satisfying would that sort of a practice be? And it is all in this book, because it is all about picking the best tools and resources along the entire homeopathic spectrum and give your patients the outcome they want through one remedy, through series of remedy. And the best part is none of this book is about theory. In fact, every chapter is a case. It's all based on real world actual clinical cases from my practice. And as part of the pre-launch of this book, I have a very special discount for a very limited period. So as a thank you for ordering the book, I have also got an extra bonus for you. A few years back, when I started my Argenta mentoring program, I wanted to connect my mentees with some of my very best teachers who fascinated me, mentored me, and have helped me come to where I was. And I've selected an interview on a training interview on how you treat asthma cases using the best of every tool. And I've interviewed one of my favorite teachers, and it's a 1 hour exclusive interview of that person who was a leading homeopathic doctor in Mumbai at that point in time. His name is Dr. Vijay Vaishnav, and he had been working with hundreds and hundreds of asthma cases in his practice and his hospital consultation for about 30 years. And he was such a great teacher. I learned all my pediatric materia medica from him, right, in my first year, and all those respiratory complaints from him. And I had invited him to train my Argenta mentoring students. And I've got that training audio for you. And I know there are gems in it. There are gems of wisdom in it. And he's spoken about those stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 sort of, asthmatic management. And I'm hoping you'll find a lot of wisdom in that interview, because my students in my Argenta mentoring rave about him. So you see, this is what I want to offer you as an extra bonus with this book. So when you get there are about 10 chapters in his book, 100 pages long, and the super valuable interview for which is a bonus along with this book. One short thing, why before I go, I want to tell you why I wrote this book. I mean, I've written 2 books already, and this book took a long time, about 4 years before I put this book out there. And you see, about 5,000 people have gone through the Stages template and, you know, my books and my training courses. And the reason I'm writing this book series, because my courses and my Argentum program is on, it's a high-end training, right? It's expensive. It's about hundreds of dollars and about $2,000. But with this book, I want to everyone and anyone who wants to understand this concept in real life practice for, you know, a very small price. And that is why I've written these books. So there are students who want to just get started and understand the case studies, and this is the book for you then. So I can't wait. You know, I have distilled down everything about the core and essence of how you use this template in your practice, and that's what I've done in this book, which is a stage for every case, right? Of how you start that first consult, what do you do in the follow-ups, how you change your tools and your remedies through the cases. So there are 10 chapters in this book. The first chapter is about a case study that shows you that no case is incomplete. So you can solve the same case using 4 different approaches depending on how much information you've got. In my second chapter, I've shown you my failure case of when my constitutional remedy failed and how a SAR code unlocked that case, right? In my third one, it's an acute case which was taken using really basic common symptoms, but it turned out to be an accidental similimum. And I want to show you what are those parameters that come in place when you can actually create that sort of, when you can actually prescribe an accidental similimum, what needs to happen. In my fourth chapter, I've spoken about a layered case using remedies in series, because that is one of the key approaches that you need to master to actually have success in practice. And then I've spoken about a case in chapter 5 where I teach you how to create rubrics, because that is one block many young students have when they're just starting. They try and put everything together of what's in the case into the repertory. That's not how it really works at stage 3. So I'm using a Kenton approach, but I'm teaching you rubric selection. In the 6th chapter, I've spoken about how you can use the Borges approach in a case that has no peculiars whatsoever and use it successfully. In chapter 7, I speak about a case where I used a synthetic prescription because it was a one-sided case. In my 8th chapter, I show you about how the intercurrents open up a case, right? But that is not the trick. The trick is what you do next. When you have a case open up, what does it mean to then start off with a secondary prescription? How do you follow up? That's what I've shown you in that case. In my 9th chapter, I've spoken about the sensation approach. It's a case on the sensation approach, but with a difference. There are no mental state. There is hardly any mental state. It's all about physicals. So using that approach when you have no mental state. And lastly, I've shared with you a checklist. I call it the case management checklist because that's exactly what the mentors in my Argentum program use to help my mentees, my students, unlock their cases. When they present cases in my program, we use that to actually help them get the best out of that case, no matter at what stage they've taken that case. So I think that checklist would help you in your practice, and I'm publishing it in a way for the very first time. So I hope that makes, that's just my summary, and I'm really, really excited because these are wonderful cases. They have been milestones for my own practice, and I want you to have them and learn from them. So you see, when I started teaching the stages template, new practitioners who had just graduated had no form of internship or experience whatsoever, started getting success by picking simple tools from, if their constitutional wasn't working, they could just use that tool and unlock their cases. They started getting that confidence to get the patients in the door and send them away with the medicine that will do something rather than nothing. So it gives that patient the hope to come back and take on the journey with you. And this is your guidebook into that world. So, and this is what I want to really offer through this book. So whether you are a student just confused with homeopathy and you want to get, or you are a practitioner who want to get, to that deeper level, or you want to improve your success rate, or you could be someone who's just planning to start a practice and doesn't really know where to start and you want to have a GPS, then this is something where you can help your practice and fast track your success. That is what I have to say about this. So this special deal and the special discount is only for a limited time, because if you're seeing this page, then this discount version is still available for download, and I can't wait to send you the book. Thank you very, very much, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye bye.